check this out. Oh, this is a really good one to watch. So these are the guys in Vanuatu. I know we showed it a little bit before, but this is a particularly good one. Guy in Vanuatu, as I said, I think it's Pentecost Island, isn't it? But anyway, about to jump off this tower. He's got a camera attached to him to show it as he goes down. You ready for this? Here we go. Vanuatu. We won't play the sound because we don't want to get pulled off YouTube. That is terrifying. Man.
Amazing. They don't have a lot of bounce in them, those ones, but it's very cleverly done. It's amazing.
Well, I guess that's a similar thing, the predictability that you said they obviously know. They've got their heights, they've got their lengths of vines. I wanted to ask you, you've kind of started on it. I've talked about starting a new podcast, like another series, and calling it The Day Before. Because a lot of times when people do something that a lot of us look at and go, holy shit, how did you do that? I always want to know what the crap happened the day before the first jump, for example. So there had to be a first strap the feet up, bungee cord there, and jumping off something significant. Don't steal my idea, people, if you hear this and you like that idea podcast, because I quite like it. I love watching documentaries and stuff about the creative process. Even whether it's 6 Days to Air, which is the South Park documentary, or Back and Forth, which is the Foo Fighters documentary, or movies, even like there's that movie, the one about Tom Hanks plays Walt Disney and how they made Mary Poppins. Even though I like the movie, but it's about the creative process. I love those kinds of conversations. And so, I thought about starting up a podcast called The Day Before. So you can be my first slash episode. Tell me about the day before the very first jump. And I guess I'm not meaning the first jump where you put a weight to a bungee and throw it out there sort of thing. But the first time, and I'm assuming it was you, AJ Hackett tested for the first time, no matter what all the maths set up to it, jumping off something significant with bungee cords attached to your feet.
Okay, well, I was a friend of mine, Chris Sigelco, was wanting to produce a video on creating bungee, and so anyway, cut a long story short, we'd been through a number of tests. There used to be a department in Auckland called the Department of Scientific Industrial Research, DSIR.
Yep.
And anyway, they looked at some rubber and came back to us with a bit of a formula. We sussed that out and said, okay, right, that's all very well. Now, how do we make the cord? So there was all of that thing. And I used to do a lot of rock climbing, so that was my job to figure out how to actually make the thing and how to rig it. And we knew the bridge we were going to jump off, which is the little one up in Greenhithe. It's only about 20 metres high.
Yep.
Into the harbour there, the upper harbour crossing. But all of our testing, what we do before we jump is we always go, okay, well, here's a weight that's similar to my weight. Throw that off the bridge first. Watch that go. Then if it all looks good, we go, okay, now let's do another one just to be really sure. Yeah. So we might do a couple of those just to be comfortable. And then we'd jump. And because it was Chris came to me, he did the first jump, not me. And so 19 metres, he jumped off. I lowered him down into the water and he swam out. And then it was my turn. I jumped. Then Chris did another one. I did another one. So we did two each. And then what we'd do is we went through the North Island and we would take turns. The next weekend it was my turn to go first. Then the following his. And then when we got to the big bridges in the middle of the North Island, where there was, if it went wrong, we're dead because there was no water under them.
Right.
And they were 80 metres high, or the water was a bit shallow.
Okay.
And so I drew the short straw. So I went first on that one. That was about 80 metres. But it's the same thing. What we're really interested in is when you do a test, we've just got to drop. It's not only dropping the weight, but it's seeing that everything works. So lowering it down, seeing that the weight gets to the ground properly, that we can get all the gear back up, because it's no good just bouncing around and then going, right, we can't get up or down. You're stuck. So we would join the testing straight after with the human drops, and it was just a really intense, fun, just great, private. We'd go along and have few drinks and, nice picnic lunch and, just get on it and afterwards celebrate, and it's great.
So that 80-meter jump, would that have been like the first one? So if you had if the bungee cord had bounced once and then snapped over green height, 20 meters, you might get a bit of a pinky, you might be a bit sore, but you're going to be fine. But the 80-meter one that you're talking about, would that be the first one that, like, if this doesn't work this time, I'm dead?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's a real leveler. That's a whole different.
So you've done this 10, 20, 30, 50 times before with weights and with maybe 100 times before. So the maths works.
No, only a few actually, because we were on a mission, Pat. First weekend we did a total of four jumps.
Oh, is that all? Oh.
The next weekend, Henry and a friend of ours from Christchurch, Martin Jones, joined us in Hamilton, and I think 5 of us did 2 jumps each, so that was 10.
So you're up to 14.
So then up to the Harbour Bridge secretly early one Sunday morning, just 2.
Okay.
Then we left it for about a month, did a couple more at the Greenhithe Bridge just with some friends, little ones.
Yep.
But then it was down to the big ones in the middle of the North Island. I think we would have only done
so it's less than 20
total jumps, maybe 25.
Yeah. Okay.
But then same method, measure it up, throw a weight off, see that it works. I think we repeated the weight drop a couple of times because this was like, this has to work, this is scary, a little bit scary, and then so I jumped and it was just a huge rush, it was just great. The bigger jumps are amazing, and then it all came together nicely, and so everyone else then took their turn, so
for you,
but we repeated that way every time.
For you who had done, a handful of jumps before, and for you who could see the repeatable fashion of it and understood the predictability of it, was it like a significantly bigger rush being up higher with that potential death threat to it than it was over the smaller ones? Like, did you feel, I don't know whether it was anxiety or excitement or somewhere in between there, raised or heightened, or was it much of a muchness because you knew the science worked?
Well, no, I think it's I think the first time you do anything, there's something different about that, and so for Chris and I, when we did the very first jumps at the Greenhithe Bridge, we'd spend a lot of time trying to suss this thing out, like before that. And so on the day it was all coming together, and we were just so surprised to see it actually work, like, wow, it actually worked, and so watching this weight bounce, far out, that's looking cool. It was coming a bit close to the bridge on the rebound, but it was exciting, and then to jump at the top of the first rebound, that I've never felt that before, this weightless sort of sensation in space for maybe, let's call it half a second,
right?
And that was like, wow, this is amazing. This is special, and so that first one, then obviously the different height jumps and the situations, there's variations, but I like to think like some of the small jumps are just as exciting, or if not more exciting than the big ones,
Okay.
But like for me, I don't, that particular jump that we were talking about in the middle of the North Island was a bit different in that it was still really early days.
Yep.
And we still weren't really at the end of any real serious testing period where we could categorically say, hey, look, this is totally predictable, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That probably took another year to where I was like, hey, look, I'm really comfortable with this.
Right. Wow.
The problem we had then was the pressure came on us so heavily from the public, like strangers that just wanted to experience it. So that's when Henry and I needed to figure out, well, it's a bit of a long story, but basically we had to figure out, well, how do you manage large numbers of people and do lots of jumps repetitively in a day with different weights of people. And how do you rig all of that? How long will a bungee cord last? Because we would make up a bungee cord just for an 80-meter jump, and we'd never use it again because the next jump might be 50 meters, and it's no good at, so we just, so we were just specializing in very low numbers, just private with mates, experimenting. And then, so getting into what we do now is a radically different step. And no one in the world had ever, ever done that or even dreamt of doing that, and so, we're fortunately, we'd put the time in before we introduced it to the public to really understand all of the risk parameters and what we'd need to do to manage it. And that's paid off.